Welcome to a new CTOC series, Employee Retention by Industry. Now, in this series, we're going to cover employee retention strategies, solutions, and struggles in many different sectors of work. So we've got a long list we're going to work through, and we're going to talk about the main reasons why people struggle to stay in an industry and what businesses can do to actually combat high retention and keep some of their best people employed. The first episode of the series, we'll be talking about aviation and airlines, a very unique and niche kind of industry within the working world. So let's get into it. So I'm sure most of you, if not all of you watching this video, have been on an aeroplane. And the industry itself, in terms of an employer and an employee, is very unique. Obviously, airlines and industries are very specific jobs. There's a lot of jobs within the industry, such as a pilot or stewardess. But overall, it's a very niche role. Now, for a business term, it's also one of the hardest businesses to set up. If you think about an airline business, the amount of money you've got to put into it, all the legislations, all the health and safety things, it's a very, very, very hard business to set up as a company, which limits the amount of businesses there are in the world when it comes to airlines. So let's explore what it's like working in one of these companies. So we're doing some research on Reddit here about the experience some people have had within their role on an airline. Now, a lot of people are attracted to the role on an airline because of the lifestyle. You can fly to locations, spend a few days there, see the culture, see the people, fly back home. Normally, it's a quite good rota where you're a few weeks on, a few weeks off, or a few days on and off. But there's also struggles to it, and this is what some of the people are saying online. So the first one is shift work, fatigue, and time away from home. So like I said, yes, there's a positive. Okay, you get to travel, but there's also the flip side where you are away from home for a long time. And if you do get travel sick or homesick, then this may be an issue. The next one's an interesting one, and this is all about frontline staff absorbing customer frustration. Now, this person's commented saying, obviously, the stewards and stewardesses on a plane would normally see the frustrations of the people on board, or it could be the people who check you in before you arrive on a plane. And people such as pilots or other members of staff may stay away from this frontline frustration of customers. And we probably all know there can be some difficult and challenging characters on an aeroplane. Obviously, it's a public way to travel, so any public transport comes with its own people. So this can be tough for people who do work in this industry. Rigid hierarchies, slow progression, another good one. There's probably not too much progression in terms of a full air flight to move into. And some of the roles within the airline industry are very specific and qualification based. Obviously, a pilot, you have to be very highly qualified to be that role. And finally, high compliance pressure. So that probably relates all down to health and safety. So obviously, you're traveling on an airline with many passengers. You want to keep them all safe at all times. So the pressure of making sure you do that is obviously high, and high pressured roles aren't for everyone. So looking at these comments then, what are leaders in this industry getting wrong? Having a think and analysis about it, the roles within aviation are very, very bespoke and limited. So probably a lot of the time people are trying to employ people into aviation without any thought on maybe we should retain people instead. So my point here is they're focusing too much on recruitment rather than retention. If you can keep some of your best people employed within aviation, you're going to get some really experienced members of staff who are going to stay loyal to the company if they're treated well. So I think airline companies who may be seeking to focus more on recruitment than retention is probably one weakness. And also what you'll find in these industries is people kind of take it with a pinch of salt saying, well, this is just the industry. In reality, you can actually still improve retention in any industry, even if it is a challenging one to keep people employed. So things such as perks, flexibility, more time off, all these sort of things can rack up and help you keep people employed whilst keeping that operational lens included as well. So what are the main two solutions to keep people employed within the aviation industry? Well, I think there's two things in my head. One's management and one's planning. I'll break both down. So management, you're going to be with your manager probably a lot of the time within aviation, working closely with them on flights, whether it's in the airport, whatever your role is within the industry, you're going to be close to your manager. And that's to include, airport roles. There's a variety of roles within an airport, but because it's one site and one base, again, you're going to be in close proximity. So building a strong relationship with your manager who trusts you and you trust them is so important within this industry. Like I said, you're going to be working closely with the manager. So you want to make sure you get on good terms with them because in our opinion at CTOL, we think the main reason why people leave a business is because of a poor manager. And the domino effect from having a poor manager, such as poor progression, favoritism, all of those things that come with it, also have a knock-on effect. So building a good regime and trust with manager is really important. And then the second point I mentioned was planning. So most aviation companies are built on rotas. So you have a rota, you work these shifts, you're off these shifts, it's an on and off kind of basis. Now having long-term visibility of when you're going to be working is crucial. I think lifestyle plans, personal plans, work plans, having maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks ahead minimum is so important. And some industries probably track this months ahead. Some are probably very disorganized and they don't track this far ahead. So that's probably where the issue comes when you come down to employee retention. People don't have visibility of the shifts or hours they are working. So overall, the airline industry is a very unique and specific environment to work in, but it can be good if you get the retention strategy correct. So, like I said, the main two reasons, management and planning. If you can get these right, if you are a manager within the airline industry or you're high up in the industry, you're a director, you manage people, this is important to look at because you can improve your employee retention. And even though it's a tough market, probably with a lot of competitors as well, if you get these things right and people can see their clear route forward, their clear goals and objectives, as well as their plans, then you're going to improve retention, definitely. So these are things to look at, and I'm sure there's a longer list, but I've covered the key ones in this episode.